The short answer is yes. The long answer is hello everyone, my name is Dylan and welcome back to Dive Drop. I've been on all of the new single rider queues at Alton Towers to test if they are just as good or even better than the main queue lines. In this video I'm going to share you my experiences with all these different queue lines and tell you whether or not I think they're worthwhile. Of course, if you do go on to enjoy this video, I would appreciate it if you did subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot, thank you in advance. So first up I visited Galactica and this was advertised at a 60-minute wait time. The queue itself now merges with the fast track and separates once again at the old photo point, and single riders walk down the pathway to the right of Station 2. Galactica itself is meant to have a throughput of 1500 people per hour. However, when I was there, Station 2 was actually out of use, and I recorded only a throughput of roughly 581 per hour, with an average dispatch rate of just over 2 minutes and 50 seconds. From joining the queue, I couldn't get a specific number of people in front of me, however I counted at least 28, and I pulled down my harness exactly 1 hour from entering the queue line.
So I've just come off, I waited more or less bang on an hour. Something interesting is that I noticed the entrance sign now says closed. I don't know why it's like that. But yeah, I saw a lot of people waiting for that when I went on, and it's not like that now. So, I don't know. We'll have to see what the others are like.
In summary, it depends on how the operations are going for Galactica. If only one station is on and you're with friends, you're probably better off going for the main queue. However, if throughput is good, then the single rider may be your best bet. Moving on now to another new single rider queue and the new addition for 2025, Toxicator. Now in theory, this ride will never need more than 2 single riders per cycle. However, we're going to have to wait slightly later for this one because it was broken when I got there.
I decided with Toxicator being down, I'll wait until the end of the day for that one, and I'll give Oblivion's new one a go.
So here we go then, Oblivion, which was advertised at only 15 minutes. Now this was a complete difference to Galactica and sort of a flawed experiment, because as you'll see as I get up the queue line, it was actually rather empty. There was nothing more than a 5-minute wait to get on the ride, and there was only one other person in front of me in the single rider queue.
So I've come to the one spot in X sector where it seems like there isn't a speaker. Oblivion was complete polar opposite to Galactica, whereas Galactica I was waiting for more or less the same as the actual queue. Oblivion I was straight on, but then to be fair, the main queue for that was only about 5 minutes as it was.
What is worth mentioning though is the fact that the single rider queue, fast track and ride access pass queue all go together until the very end. So on a very busy day these may all get bunched up and you may have quite a long wait. Just like before, I think the benefit of the single rider queue will depend on the day you go. However, unlike Galactica, what I would keep an eye on for Oblivion is how long the queue lines are.
And the only decision has been made to clear the queue line.
Why does this keep happening to me?
The Smiler was closed for the rest of the day, so I wasn't actually able to test the queue line. However, I'm happy to come to the conclusion that it is once again hit or miss, as this photo I took the day before shows.
I am making an escape. I am doing that as fast as I can before everyone else takes over the other parts of the park. So next up is 𝗗𝗚𝗡𝗗𝗏𝗄𝗏 because 13 is closed. 35 minutes, and if you come around this side, you've got your single rider entrance, which doesn't look too bad, so we'll see how it goes.
On joining the queue line I counted 10 people in front of me in this queue. It turned into 11 as some kid decided to push into me, and operations wise they seem to be getting a car out pretty much once every 30 seconds. Now it took me exactly 15 minutes to get onto this ride, meaning that I skipped the queue by 20 minutes. And with only 4 riders being able to ride per car, it seemed that the single riders were able to get through fairly fast. What is worth noting is that during wet weather, the ride used to operate with only 3 people per car, which used to absolutely eat up the single riders. However, for 2025 it seems they've stopped this practice and the ride just seems to shut when it starts raining. After riding 𝗗𝗚𝗡𝗗𝗏𝗡𝗏, I noticed that 13 had reopened, so I went over there to check out that single rider. However, as you'll see, it's another flawed experiment. Now just like Oblivion's queue line, the single rider, fast track and ride access pass all enter together. However, unlike Oblivion, these separate early on so you're not squished together. The ride access pass queue separates and goes via the exit, whilst the fast track and single rider are still merged and go up to the baggage drop off point. Fast track is then merged with the main queue and the single rider goes on the right pathway down to the station. When getting to the station I only had 5 people in front of me in the single rider queue, and waited only 8 minutes to get onto the ride. For 13, I do think the single rider queue is faster than the main queue, however, not by much. So if you're with friends, the question is, are you happy to wait an extra 5 or 10 minutes just to ride with them, or would you rather just ride alone?
The good news is, after the photo point, should you want to go on again as a single rider, you can literally just join this little merge point again that I spoke about earlier.
So that finally leads us back to Toxicator, and unfortunately it's a bit anticlimactic.
So the queue is 25 minutes. This is the look of the single rider queue. I am not going to go in that because yesterday I got in, stood by opposite like the lift door, and I waited about 40 minutes. So I'm not even going to bother with Toxicator just because I already know what the answer is.
From what I've seen for the first 2 weeks of Toxicator's operation is that the batching is great. Unfortunately, that does mean that for single rider, it isn't great. As I mentioned earlier, if done right, the batching for Toxicator means that no more than 2 single riders will be needed per cycle, and that isn't even a guarantee. There may be several cycles where there are no single riders used at all. As a result, it is one of the shortest but yet slowest moving queues in the park, and my recommendation would just be to go for that main queue. So in conclusion, single rider can be a great way to shorten your queue time to Alton Towers. However, you do have to focus on the factors that are the ride, the operations, the throughput, the busyness, and the weather. For example, on Galactica, if only one station is available, it may not make much of a difference. And if you go on days such as during the school trip season, even though that main queue may be long, you'll definitely know better in the single rider queue. As I mentioned earlier, if you did enjoy this video, I would appreciate it if you did subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot, so thank you, and goodbye.